When it comes to video games, there is a certain point where taking influence goes a little bit too far. In the case of Project Wingman, it very much wanted to learn from Ace Combat, specifically 7. But Project Wingman is that student who messed around all year, skipping, turning stuff in late, and then at the very end of the year got serious and tried really hard. Now, let's talk about whether or not they passed. I admit I had reservations about this going into it. Project Wingman wasn't trying to fill shoes, it had to fill the sky. I still remember the line when we start a new campaign in Ace Combat. A simple question. Does the color of the sky mean anything to you? I didn't know what I was gonna get when I started a new campaign in Project Wingman, but after getting greeted with a wall of text, I could tell exactly what I wasn't going to get. The game takes place in some distant future after the Third World War, and there was something about a new metal material that the world fights over with planes. I honestly don't know, and they couldn't make it interesting enough for me to care. Each mission started with a simplistic 3D hologram map similar to Ace Combat, but the only information that had any real meaning was how many air and ground units you could expect to see during the mission. This was really annoying because you would only have a small window to see that information. It's a bar, and it's kind of in the middle of whatever preamble cutscene they have before you get to select your airplane. So essentially, every time a new mission started, you would have to sit maybe 1 minute into the nonsensical dialogue that your operators or whatever would be spouting, and then you'd see that information and then you could immediately skip. But if you skipped before then, you wouldn't know what type of planes or special weapons to equip, whether you should bring more anti-air or anti-ground armaments and stuff. Now, this was kind of compounded by the fact that during the first mission, you start off in the air already, which, that's not really a problem. No big deal. But the first thing that appears on your screen as you're flying is familiarize yourself with the controls. There's no tutorial. Now, obviously, if you're familiar with Ace Combat or other games, you might have a general idea as to what the controls are going to be. So, if you're familiar, then you probably won't have that big of an issue. But this assumes that you've already played a game similar to Project Wingman. Now, after the wording of familiarize yourself with the controls appears, another pop-up appears on screen that says, "This game has no checkpoints. Make every decision count," or something along those lines. Don't do that. Don't explicitly not have any type of comprehensive tutorial and then follow up with the fact that there's no checkpoints. Which makes no sense, by the way, because there are very clear moments in every single mission where they could have easily put a checkpoint and lost nothing. There's several moments, every single mission I checked, where you've defeated you've blown up all of the targets, whether they be on the ground or in the air, and your supporting characters are kind of just talking over the comms, yada yada, and you're kind of just flying around wondering if the mission's going to end or if you're going to have more stuff to shoot. And guess what? You're going to have more stuff to shoot. Then it says mission updated and more targets just appear on screen. They just pop up. So in that time that they were just sitting there waiting for something, it's way too long for it to be loading. I know that it's not loading. But the decision to not have checkpoints was just that, a decision, not a limitation or anything. And it's a very strange one because every mission is broken up into what could have easily been chapters or sections broken with a checkpoint. Now, the controls themselves are actually really good. The moment-to-moment action is fun. It feels very, very similar to Ace Combat, which is a really good game. It's fun to play and excellent to kind of pilot around and shoot. But Ace Combat kind of encouraged players to push the limits of their skills and their ability to fly in airplanes and stuff. And it wasn't a big deal if you made any sort of mistakes or got too careless because there were freaking checkpoints. I didn't want to do that in Project Wingman because these missions are long. Like, your average mission in Ace Combat was a digestible chunk. But in Project Wingman, I'm like, oh my gosh, is this still going? So there were moments where it wasn't necessarily that the mission was difficult. I could probably replay it with the same amount of ease as I did the first time, but I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to risk having to just re-get all of that progress. And one of the positives that I have to say about this game is that all of the enemies are significantly harder to take down. All of the jets that you're up against, they're flying for their lives out there. So it's definitely way, way more difficult than Ace Combat out of the gate. Like, your average enemy is not just going to fly in a line and let you shoot them down like they will in Ace Combat. So they're harder to take down, and there are no checkpoints. So you have to really focus on the fight. So you're taking every fight by the books, essentially. You're not trying to take any chances, you're not trying to get fancy with it. And I guess that's fine, but it makes missions very boring. Because I'm not trying to do anything cool, because the punishment for messing up trying to be cool is starting from scratch, and I just don't want to do that. Project Wingman gets pluses for having allies that will actually help you in a fight, in that I don't think there was a single time in Ace Combat where your wingman ever actually took down a target that you were targeting. I've never seen them actually contribute to any of the missions. They were there just to kind of fill the screen and make it feel like you were flying with a unit. But in Project Wingman, you can actually get your kills stolen by your allies, which is neat. I mean, I think that it's really cool that they're actually there helping and contributing instead of just being there to fill space. I have to take it back to the story for a second though, because Project Wingman implies that there's a lot going on in the worldscape, and it should be doing that. It can't all be about planes all the time. But they mess up because they never show you anything other than 3D maps. There's no visuals of the outside world. There's no non-military combatants. It's you're either looking at planes or you're looking at this holographic map. So they'll have lines where they reference their world as if they live in some sort of weird bubble where the only thing that matters is pilots. The missions that you go on are you're a mercenary unit, right? And you're contributing or you're trying to earn money during this great big war, but you don't ever see any of that war, so you don't know what's really at stake or what your role in any of it is. It's difficult to care about a story like that because there's only ever one thing going on. And even though characters are talking about other stuff that's going on, because you don't see it, it may as well not exist. Ace Combat showed you footage of fields and of cities, of diplomats, scientists, enemy pilots, people discussing their philosophies about the war and their nation, what it means to be a patriotism, and how patriotism as a concept is evolving over time. Project Wingman desperately wants to do that and explore those ideas, but visually, they're only giving you a map to look at. So whenever one of the characters tries to get idealistic in a way that an Ace Combat character would, it just sounds silly. Like, it doesn't make any sense, and it very quickly becomes something that you want to skip, and that you want them to stop. Like, stop trying because you're not hitting the mark here. And they don't stop. When you're in a mission in Ace Combat, there are moments of silence and music, right? Where nobody's talking, you're just flying, and the background music is playing. And obviously your sound effects and stuff like that. But you need that to kind of break up the dialogue and kind of focus in on what you're kind of doing. In Project Wingman, there's people talking constantly. There's never not somebody saying something over them. And between their dialogue that doesn't matter to you at all, and the beeping of you targeting and being targeted, and the sound effects, it's so much, it's noisy. And I was very tempted to turn off stuff in the settings just to get just a teeny tiny bit of quiet. And this being a smaller project, nowhere near the scale of an Ace Combat game, they don't have the music production that Ace Combat has. Wires and brass horns. Project Wingman's music, unfortunately, is... a lot of it sounds like it's from different games. There was one mission in particular where I swear the background music was like straight up lifted from like Mega Man 2. I really cannot express just how important the marriage between music and gameplay is when it comes to stuff like this. Pairing up and having good pacing in the level with excellent background music increases the adrenaline and the emotion that your gameplay is already tapping upon. Having such a dramatic orchestra in Ace Combat made you want to fly better, fly harder, faster, more aggressively. It made you feel like there was something at stake, even if there wasn't necessarily something actually at stake here. I mean, after all, how much could be at stake in a game that has cutscenes, right? But that was the emotion that you got when a well-timed missile shot paired with the horns, the French horns playing in the background, or how the orchestra, the choir would cue in as you flew through clouds, and there would be a break through them. And you could see the field that you were flying over, the map, or the city, or the elevator. All of that played a part in making the moments of Ace Combat stand out and stick in people's minds. That's what people think that it's just the combat or just the intensity, but they're wrong. It's when all of those elements come together that you end up with situations that stick out and just really stick with you well after you finish playing the game. Project Wingman doesn't really have that marriage. So even though the gameplay is solid, it really just, it's forgettable. Like, I couldn't tell you one mission from another. And that's unfortunate because the gameplay deserves it. It deserves to be remembered. And it just doesn't have enough of the other elements to be memorable. Like, here's a challenge, I would say. If you get and play Project Wingman, mute all of the game's audio and try and play any of Ace Combat 0, Ace Combat Horizon. Yes, I know it's a bad game, but the music is still good. Ace Combat 7, play White Devil, play Daredevil, play Zero over any mission of Project Wingman, and you'll probably notice a significant difference in how that mission feels as far as like your own emotions go. It's so unbelievably important, and It's not necessarily that they didn't do it right. It's just it's not good enough. Like the the lead designers, as far as like the actual gameplay, the lead gameplay designers really put the entire project on their backs and tried to go the distance with it. And if some of the other elements of the game were just a little bit further, a little bit better, the game could have been much more than a casual, it's alright. The sound design outside of the noise of the planes, the gunfire, and the missiles whooshing and all that is just not there. Project Wingman isn't a game that I want to hear. I feel like Project Wingman is a type of thing that would work well in some sort of arcade setting, where there really isn't a story and you're just there for the pure gameplay experience, because that's the thing that they hit the best. They really did nail that primary gameplay loop. But when they add in this other stuff, things get muddled and the experience kind of just goes down. Again, it's not necessarily a bad game. They did manage to actually learn some things from Ace Combat. Like I said, allies that actually help you are a big plus. There's not really too much left I have to say about Project Wingman. There are some unique targets constructed similarly to the Arsenal Bird in that there are different parts that you have to destroy before they go down. But unfortunately, they aren't introduced with any sort of fanfare. They just sort of show up. And, I mean, if the game doesn't treat them specially, then I don't have to treat them specially either. The Crimson Squad, which is a team of enemy aces that you encounter, again, they talk way too much, but they are fun to fight and deal with. But that's pretty much all I have to really say about it. Let me know what you think about this and Ace Combat down in the comments below, and I hope to see you guys again soon.